What is up, y'all? It's your boy Ebo, and today I'm back with another build video. This time it's for my girl Sparrow. I've been playing a lot more Sparrow ever since I got the master skin for Rampage, and I also got Offensive Maneuvers, which is a really good card, and I'm really glad I got it. I actually got it because of the new way you could buy cards. I just bought a shit ton of order cards and finally got it after spending a lot of reputation. But that's besides the point. Let's get straight to the build. First things first, you're going to want to get the prime card, obviously the Warlord, damage, physical, you don't have to worry about that, you slot that in. But the first card you want to get is actually the Guardian's Ward. And the reason I get this is because Sparrow has no escape, and early on her damage isn't great. If you get ganked, you're basically screwed. So this card right here ensures that you do not get ganked, because if you place these wards at the right spots, you're going to see when people are coming to get you, and you're going to be able to get out quick. It also makes you feel safe in your lane, and it helps with positioning, which Sparrow needs a lot of. So you get this card first, and I'm not going to do any of this upgrade stuff. I'm just going to show you this, and I'll show you the equipment after. I don't really want to use the new system. It's fine, but I just don't really want to use it. So you throw in the Guardian's Ward, and then after you do that, the next card you want to get is, yes, Offensive Maneuvers. This is a great card. This is a really good card. It gives you physical armor and energy armor against basic attacks, which I think is what you really need the most. Like, no one really relies on abilities in this game that much. Or there's characters that do, but not in a damage sense. Like, obviously the ADCs are based off basic damage, and those are going to be your main problems as Sparrow, because you shouldn't get ganked because you have your ward. So this card is going to be the next card you slot in. It also gives you a good amount of crit, 8%, which is really good. And it gives you armor, something I really like to put in early on in-game on any character, just because damage is already so low in early game, and then when you slot armor in there, it's just you just negate so much damage. So you throw this Offensive Maneuvers in next, and then after that you want to throw in, you're not upgrading any of these yet, so don't worry, I'm not forgetting. You have no reason to upgrade these, you're just throwing them in. The next card you want to get is actually, where is it, Adamant Edge. And the reason you want this card is, obviously it gives you damage and health, but the main reason you want it is because of that fully upgraded bonus, that 15.2 physical damage. Now that's a lot of damage you're throwing in there, and especially early game. Like I said, this game relies so much on how you do early game that your early game needs to be really good. Your early game needs to be really good. So yeah, you want to slot this card in. It gives you a little bit of health, which we're not putting it in for, but hey, it helps. But the main reason you want it is for that fully upgraded bonus. And now, once you've thrown this card in, the next thing you want to do is actually upgrade this Adamant Edge with 3 strikes, or minor strikes, or major strikes, or whatever you have. I use 3 strikes just because I had no minor strikes. If I had minor strikes, I probably would use minor strikes, just because you're trying to upgrade it as quick as possible. So I throw in 3 strikes, which is fine because that equals 6, so I can just go in after I get 6 card points and max this out, and it's not a problem. It works really well for me. After you do that, the next card you're gonna want to get is, where is it? Spear of the RIFTHUNTER. If I can just find it, I think I passed it. There it is. You're gonna want to get the Spear of the RIFTHUNTER. This card is a really good card for Sparrow. It gives you crit, it gives you damage, the 2 main things that you want on her, honestly. And you're putting this card in just to gain a little bit more crit, a little bit more damage. Like, you're not building crit yet fully. You're just kind of adding more damage at this point. You already have a lot of damage from your Adamant Edge being maxed. You throw in the Spear of the RIFTHUNTER, and then you want to upgrade that with, again, 1 strike, 1 wound, and another strike. I don't put a minor wound on. I do have a minor wound, but I don't put it on because usually when I come back to base, I have 6 card points, and that's just enough for me to put 2 strikes and 1 wound. So you want to upgrade that Spear of the RIFTHUNTER with 2 strikes, 1 wound. At this point, you're just trying to get your damage up, and then if you happen to crit, yeah, that's fine, but you're not really building crit that much. But you do want to throw that crit on just because you do want to get a little crit in here and there. But the reason we're building damage, because I used to actually go down the crit route first. I used to go 2 crits, 1 damage on my RIFTHUNTER, but I found that going 2 damage, 1 crit works way better for what card we're going to put in next. The next card I put in is the Sword of the Altar. Now, A lot of people are like, oh, why would you put this in? You could put in Blade of Agora, it gives you damage. Listen, I've tried putting the Blade of Agora. It works. Trust me, I've done it. I like it. But I prefer the Sword of the Altar. The reason I like the Sword of the Altar is because I love lifesteal. Lifesteal helps me stay alive. If I go into a 2v1 situation with Sparrow who has no escape, yeah, she's supposed to kill them both. Fine. She relies on her damage. She has no escape. But if you have lifesteal, I just feel safer. I feel safer when I have lifesteal. If I die, I'm like, oh shit. If I had hit him one more time, I would have stolen this much health. Maybe I would have lived. Lifesteal makes me feel safe. I don't feel cornered. If I'm low on health, I don't have to go back to base. I don't need to bring mana pots. I can just lifesteal off the minions and it's fine. If you don't want to go down the lifesteal route, you can throw in, and right here I'm giving you options, guys. You can throw in the Blade of Agora, and you can actually throw in the Sword of the Altar later. I'll explain that. But if you don't want to throw in Sword of the Altar right now, you can throw in the Blade of Agora, and yeah, basically you throw in that Blade of Agora just like you throw in the Sword of the Altar. And then the next step is to max this out. Obviously with the Sword of the Altar, I max it out with triple greater drains. Now I don't want to go with lower cards just because lifesteal you want a higher percentage. If you go with triple greater drains, you're gonna end up with, I think, 40% lifesteal, which works perfect for me. If you went with lesser drains, yeah, you would fill this out quicker, but like I said, you're not building too much crit. You just wanna get that in there for when you do have your crit. If you went with Blade of Agora, then yeah, you do the same thing. You want to max that Blade of Agora out with strikes. Now, if you went with Blade of Agora, you don't need to go with major strikes. You can go with minor strikes, you can go with strikes, because it really doesn't matter. It's just damage. So if you were to go with Blade of Agora, you can max that card out quicker, yeah. And that's actually something I do in some games, but most games this is what I stick with. So you can go with Blade of Agora, max it out with whatever strikes you have, and then put on the next card. And the next card that you're gonna put on is another Spear of the Rift Hunter. Now, once you throw this Spear of the Rift Hunter, at this point you already have your crit damage. So when you crit, you're hitting pretty hard. If you had a Blade of Agora in here, when you crit, you'd be hitting for about probably 600. But with the Sword of the Altar, when you crit, you're hitting for about 400 at this point. But that's fine because you're life stealing. You're life stealing about 200 health. That's fine. Yeah, so you throw in this Spear of the Rift Hunter, and you want to do the same thing with this one. You want to, and this is actually the reason why I'm going more damage than crit, because when you go more crit than damage, I find that I hate relying so much on crit in fights. I'd rather rely on damage, and then if I crit, it's like, oh, okay, great, you crit, you did a lot of damage. So that's why I throw in 2 damage, 2 strikes, 1 wound. So again, with this Spear of the Rift Hunter, I have no strikes left. So usually what I do is I start throwing in my major strikes, just because you already have this in, and there's no point in really throwing in the minor cards. You might as well start bringing in the big cards. So I usually throw in 2 major strikes and then 1 wound. And when you do that, you usually have at least one more card point, because this is 3, 6, and that's 8. So you get your cards in 3, so you'll have an extra one. So usually I bring in a minor wound and I throw that in on the offensive maneuvers. So you have, let me just go over this again. You throw in another Spear of the Rift Hunter, you throw in 2 major strikes, 1 wound, and then you'll have 1 extra card, and you can want to get a minor wound and throw that on your offensive maneuvers. That's the way I do it, and that's the way that works for me. And after this, you basically just rinse and repeat. You get your next buy, you throw in another Spear of the Rift Hunter, and you do the same thing. You throw in major strike, and sometimes I don't even go with another wound. Sometimes I go triple major strike, but you can do the same thing and go double major strike, wound, and then minor on offensive maneuvers. And at this point, that Spear of the Rift Hunter is maxed. All you have to do is max this out with crits. So at this point, your crit's pretty high. You fill out your offensive maneuvers with whatever crit cards you want, whatever crit cards you can afford, and that's basically it. You've reached 60 card points. Now, the other option would be if you went down the Blade of Agora route, you could throw in that Blade of Agora, max that out, do the same thing with the Rift Hunter. The exact same thing is what I do, except right when you realize, or actually no, not right when you realize, right when you throw in that first Rift Hunter, after you throw in your Blade of Agora and you max out the first Rift Hunter, before you put the second one in, you want to sell your Blade of Agora for your Sword of the Altar. And this is why I do that. The reason why Sword of the Altar is not so good first, why a lot of people don't like putting it in first, is because you don't have that much damage. So if you want to have lifesteal and you don't have that much damage, it's like, what's the point of the lifesteal? You're not hitting that hard, you're not stealing too much. Which is why a lot of people would rather go with the Blade of Agora. So you go with the Blade of Agora, you're hitting hard, you put in your Rift Hunter, you're hitting even harder, and now you throw, once you sell that Blade of Agora for your Sword of the Altar, you're not hitting as hard as you used to be, but you're still hitting really hard, and you're gaining a lifesteal. So you're not really giving up too much. You're giving up a little bit of damage for more sustained, which I think Sparrow is really good at doing, especially with her ultimate, because if you hit multiple people with that, with lifesteal, you're basically alive forever. Especially if you go up against characters like Rampage, attack damage Rampages, not tanks, attack Rampages. Lifesteal helps out a lot. Rampages can't take me out because I hit them, I steal, they're swiping at me. Yeah, they got attack speed and damage, but I'm just life stealing, and eventually I'm gonna win that fight, or he's gonna jump away and do what Rampage does. So yeah, that's the other option. You sell the Blade of Agora when you put in the first Rift Hunter after you buy your crit bonus, and then you put in another sword, and then you put in the Sword of the Altar, and you just do the same thing and throw in your Rift Hunters. That's usually the way I play it. If you have any tweaks, any questions, comments, anything, hit me up in the comment section. I actually would like this is not set in stone. This is like I said, sometimes I do Blade of Agora, sometimes I do Sword of the Altar. It really depends. It depends on the way the game is going. It depends on how you feel. There's different ways to play. So if you have anything to say, if you have any help, anything to help me with, hit me up in the comment section. If you like the video and the build, definitely let me know. Hit me with a like, comment, and yeah, thank you for watching. This build is actually called Knees Gone, and that is actually in caps. And that's actually Elder Scrolls reference. If you play Elder Scrolls, you'll get it. But it's called Knees Gone because we shoot the knees, we take the knees out, they're dead. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Hit me with a like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day. Let me know how the build works for you.